Welcome to episode 20 of the Conqueror's Corner podcast. Today is August the 5th, and I'm NotRyanFox here with my dudes Jared.
I know Chad's feeling the same way as me, but I am broken by the RNGesus to not getting the Fatebringer done.
And Chad.
Yeah, I'm missing Mythoclast and an armor piece, but I'm going to pull through. I think we're both going to be okay eventually. Hopefully, we don't end up like Shifty.
Thoughts and prayers to Shifty. Before we bring the heat, make sure you subscribe, unsubscribe, and then resubscribe to our podcast on Spotify and iTunes. Don't forget, we're also on the YouTube, so we are now super famous tubers. And like, comment, and subscribe, and click the bell, and all that other stuff. Super important for algorithms. That's what everybody else says. I don't really know. I don't follow it that close. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at DestinyCCPod. There's links to everything from there. We also have a Discord server. Jared talks about all his awesome roles on there. And pretty big week for Destiny news. So I think it's time to let the dogs out.
Yeah, I forgot to post the last God Wall. I just got that tunnel vision kill clip, Loud Lullaby, and I haven't started using it yet. So I was going to post it, and time got away from me, I guess.
I think we're okay with that.
Okay.
Listen, I have to say, I already had like my personal god roll, Adept Fatebringer, the Overflow Rampage. So I was running through with some of the people in our Discord, running through some GMs, and I got two Outlaw Rampage, one Overflow Rampage, and one Outlaw One for all in one night in like 6 GMs. It was unbelievable. I've never had such luck, and it's all on the same gun, of course.
Yep, that's great palindromes you got there. But also something also great that we got this week was the TWAB. And you talk about tons and tons of ability changes, stuff happening in the future, nerfs, buffs, nerfs, I think is what you call it when they're combined on a character. So
what did you just say?
I think he said
nerfs.
How's that spelled?
It's BU then NERFS. The nerfs.
Did you just Did you have a stroke before this started?
I don't know what
he's trying to start something, man. Leave him alone.
I don't know. Just saying.
Are we trying to go viral? Is that what this
is? Yeah, we'll attempt to. I think we need to get on TikTok for that to happen.
I don't even know what that means.
Also this week, Joe Blackburn posted a big long Twitter thread of stuff that's going on in the future for PvP that he wanted to get out before the showcase that happened later this month on the 24th. First thing he brought up was PvP maps. And in Season 16, which is Witch Queen release, as we know right now, we're getting two Destiny 2 maps are coming back. So that's ones that's in the Destiny content vault. So I don't know if they haven't announced which two it is. I've just seen a lot of discussion on Twitter about what people were hoping it to be, but to me, just more maps. Hopefully it's a couple of them with a little more balance to it. Season 17, we're getting a brand new PvP map. And then Season 18, they're bringing back a map from Destiny 1. So he wanted to lay that out there just because there's been a lot of talk about how Destiny PvP hasn't been touched since season after Shadowkeep.
Yeah, I think you're right. They haven't done really anything to it. The closest they did was do like stasis changes for PvP only, but that's it. They didn't touch PvP as a whole at all.
Yeah, and then he also goes to touch on game modes that they're going to be bringing to Destiny 2. And Rift has been talked about a lot, and right now they're testing it, and they're hoping to bring it back sometime next year. So, Destiny 2 is a lot faster movement than what it was in Destiny 1. So the play testing some of that stuff that's going on now in the current sandbox. So it's going to be really interesting to see, with those Ice Wall Glacier nades close off lanes, and it's going to be pretty fun.
Man.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, and it's going to be after Witch Queen, so there's going to be whatever happens for Witch Queen too. It's also the
Yeah.
perfect time to bring in any b-ball emotes you could think of. Working
Oh,
on people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully, hey, maybe we can finally get that Jordan one of him jumping from like the
the
free throw
jump
line.
man. Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
the $30 the
Yeah,
$30
you run up to the rift, you activate the emote, and then you dunk.
Yeah.
And then he also goes to talk about how they're bringing some brand new modes in 2022. So they have a development team working on that. Also, there's going to be a lot of changes to trials next season, and they're going to watch that closely, what the feedback is and what the ecosystem of that plays out, and they're looking to give players that same scale of change every year that's equivalent to what we're getting next season in trials. So all in all, that's some pretty good stuff to look forward to, especially if you really enjoy the PvP of this game.
All like 14 people that still enjoy the PvP of this game. Which brings me to my question: is this too little, too late?
I think for some it might be, but here's the thing: if they're reacting to a tweet coming from a Bungie higher up, they're still playing the game, so
You
they're gonna
right?
play it. It doesn't matter. They're gonna give their 2 cents on it, and whether they take a break or not is up to them. It really doesn't matter to me. I'm here for you guys and you guys, and that's it. I'm not here for the people that have a huge following and their opinions. I'm here for all the peeps that are average and just barely above average, as I think I am, just a hint above average, and that's only because I started GMs earlier than everybody else.
You're like
And that's it.
at least one standard deviation
Yeah,
better than everybody, right?
just a tiny bit, and that's because I have these exotics. They don't. Once they get them, it's back to normal again. But I mean, like I I came through Bungie because of Halo, and Halo PvP is the pinnacle for me for PvP. And if Bungie can even make Destiny like any closer to that, I'd be happy, and I would actually play it. Now Halo Infinite's coming out, so depending on how that goes, I might get my PvP itch on that, and then get all my PvE stuff done in in Destiny. But I mean, we'll have to see what happens with Trials next season, and read those patch notes because they're going to be gigantic.
Chad, what you just touched on there is basically probably the majority of people that play Destiny now. They come for the PvE action, the raids, the dungeons, the story contents, the storylines, the lore that's going on in the game, and it's up to Bungie to keep them on this game by playing PvP after they complete those activities. Because he talked about one of his tweets, like he wants it still to feel great to get an awesome weapon and then go take it into Crucible to see how it plays against other Guardians to show it off. So if they can get back to that, Destiny can be at a great place. But it's up to them. And they haven't put out a lot of content for PvP, probably because a few reasons. And one that really comes to mind is how they remade the game for the new gen consoles that came out. They released that last December.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd
they
say
added.
between the new gen consoles and the engine upgrade and COVID, I mean, they've kind of look at some of the other games. They're just now putting out these next gen upgrades, if they're even out at all. They might do like a frame rate increase or something, but most of those games are already developed with an uncapped frame rate available. They're just capped on the console. So that's not what Bungie did. So, I think they deserve, I think that people don't understand what a achievement that was. And honestly, I'm not a game developer. So, I mean, I don't know either, but from what I've read about other people and things around the industry and stuff, it seems to be a lot more in depth than what I ever thought it would be.
Yeah, it's a lot of back end work that I know for sure I have no understanding of any of it. And just reading some of the posts that I saw initially, when people started giving Bungie a lot of hate, and then other developer type people came in and started explaining what they had to do, or like what they thought Bungie would have to do for these kinds of things, was mind blowing to me. and it's a huge amount of work for the time where they, yeah, it's it's something I wish I understood more, so I could make more of an educated, um, more educated about it with you guys. But I don't, and I just, I'm just here in awe of what they had to do.
Yeah, maybe one day when all the viruses settle down and go away, we can go out to Seattle and they invite us out and we can find out more about what goes on behind the scenes.
Hey,
Yeah,
I
Conqueror
did
Corner
click the
tour.
box. I did click the box on the in the profile section that they are now. I'm sure they've already tried, but now they are officially able to invite me to the summits.
Hmm.
So I'm here. I'm ready for it. I'll take PTO. Don't tell my wife; she'll be very upset. But I'll make it happen, Bunchy. Jokeroth.
So something else that people have been griping on for a very long time was the separation of melee abilities and the straight melee, and praise the RNG lords that we are finally getting it. So basically, Bungie's come up with some new terms that basically you'll be able to map the buttons to. The first one is auto melee, which is the same system we have now. If you don't want to change it, you don't have to do anything. Keep it exactly the way it's going. The next term is called charged melee, which is obvious is your melee ability. And you can now map that to a key or a button. And supposedly you're going to have to get a little creative with your button mapping because controllers are quite limited with the amount of buttons they have. And then the next thing you have is the uncharged melee, which is just the natural punch, knife stab, Warlock stuff out of the air somehow, force punch maybe, and map that. So start planning ahead. Something you might want to bind that to, and hopefully nobody throws a smoke instead of well, to me, I don't know how many times we did it doing GMs during the first time, but I go to throw down smoke, but I melee a thrall that is 2 meters to my right and I have it on my screen. So hopefully that don't even happen anymore.
You got to bump that field of view, dog.
I
Yeah,
mean,
that's yeah.
we was on OG Xbox at the time.
Rip.
Yeah, I mean, I remember this being a huge problem when I played Hunter a lot. I'd be going for like that throwing knife, like I'd be ready to get that throwing knife in, and all of a sudden I'm lunging at him. Or like you jump up to get away from an enemy and you're in the air above them and you go to throw a knife or you go to throw something and you zoom in on them. And it's like I was jumping away for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
but now I'm back down there with them. And as a Titan, it doesn't happen a lot. We do have that one middle tree where we have that throwing hammer, which is annoying when I go and all of a sudden I'm doing a punch. I'm like, no, I want to throw the hammer. Like, let me throw my hammer.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll be something also because it'll be interesting to map that out for shoulder charges and stuff.
Yeah, shoulder charger is going to be interesting, and then also they tied swords to the melee keys also in some
Yes.
parts. So it's going to be interesting to see. You might have to do some brain remapping of what keys you need to hit and when.
I think what I saw, the best idea that I thought was, if you're playing on a controller, God bless you, was to keep the melee the same as like RB or R1 if you're one of those PlayStation guys, and then make the uncharged melee R3 to where you just push in the right stick. So I think that's probably would be the easiest thing to do. There's a lot of other games. I believe Call of Duty maps melee to pushing in like the right stick, like R3. So that's probably what I would do if I was on controller. Jared and I were talking earlier. I think I'm going to make E my uncharged melee and keep my charge melee the button on the mouse that I have it set at currently.
Yeah, it's a lot of good stuff out there to go. Probably somebody already has a YouTube video up of what they change it to maximize your switching of the keys. So it's going to get into some of these ability changes, and the first thing they're starting off with is stasis getting another little tweak. What's going on with stasis? Basically, just a freeze animation of while somebody's airborne. You can't start the breakout until you hit the ground. So now you're going to be able to start the breakout as soon as you're frozen. Don't matter if you're hitting the ground or not. And
Sounds good to
then,
me.
yeah. And here's one I don't think anybody's seen coming: was a nerf to sliding in PvP, or sliding in general. So now when you go to slide, you can get minus 20 stability to whatever weapon you have out. Shotgun pellet spread is increased by 15%, and you have a 1.5 flinch multiplier on you while sliding. Whoa.
So
Movement.
do you think that this is? I thought this was for like hand cannon, like and sniping, like sliding around corners and sniping, and sliding around corners with hand cannons. But another guy in our clan who plays on Xbox says that he's really going to be hurt when it comes to his SMG as far as the stability thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't play controller, so I can't speak to that. But what do you guys think this was trying to address?
I think they want to take down some of the movement in this game, and like movement needs to come at a cost. Is what they're getting around to. So
Yeah,
like
if you want to
I'm fine
move
with
around the
that.
map more, you're going to be less efficient with your killing power. Is what they're doing.
I dipped
I
in
you know I,
Valorant a couple months ago, and if you're
Mhm.
moving at all, your accuracy is so bad.
Yeah, I know, and some of like you said about the movement, that does go hand in hand with some of like the subclass changes that we'll be talking about here shortly. So I think that you're probably right. That probably is the direction they want to go.
Yeah, if you want to go fast, it's got to cost you something. So you can't create something awesome out of nothing for out of free cost. And speaking of free, these Titans are getting a pretty free buff here.
Oh yeah. So the first thing that they talked about was the rally barricade. They've noticed that out of the two rally barricades only being used 0.001% of the time. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's about it. I don't think I've ever equipped it on purpose in the last 2 years, maybe. But the first thing they're doing for rally barricade is if you're standing behind it, you're getting a plus 30 stability, plus 10% range, and a minus 50% flinch. So if you're behind that barricade, you're going to be shooting farther, shooting more stable, and taking less flinch, which is going to be definitely very interesting. I'm going to wonder if we're going to get back to that rocket in a rally barricade in a well with rockets meta DPS again. We'll talk about that a little later with the well stuff that Ryan's going to talk about. But I'm excited to actually get behind another barricade. But they made another change to both barricades, and that is that players that are zooming around the map, they're going to get punished a lot more. The faster you're moving through a barricade, the more damage you're going to end up taking. So you're going to get like down to a sliver. So if you run through a Titan's barricade, he can do anything to you and you're going to die. Doesn't matter. They want to
I think
punish
that's
more
awesome.
people for pushing through barricades.
Great.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And then the second thing they did is they pushed the barricade into the ground so that things can't go underneath it, because things were hitting the feet and stuff like that, and they wanted to just nip that right in the bud and just get that out of there.
I think it's the
Or
nightmares of the
3 years
fire
later,
that
baby.
the knights spit out, the taken knight,
Yeah,
and like the
yeah,
AOE is like not even matching what you visually see, and it's like on the other side of the barricade, ticking you down. But with that rally barricade, it made me think with that minus flinch, like if you have a sniper rifle and you have no distractions, you have this 50% flinch and unflinching sniper, you might not even take any flinch at all at that point. Like you might not be even moved off the head.
yeah. No, it's something to test. Definitely, we could easily do that in a private match and see how it goes. Um, but yeah, it's definitely something to try out and see what goes on because that could be really mean. Just post up behind a rally and just dome people without getting flinched at all. Ugh.
Yep.
Ugh.
So do we know? I'm sure that we don't know, but as far as like with the Lunafaction boots, is that stuff going to will all that stack? Do you think?
I don't remember if it did back in Vanilla D2. I don't remember at all. Um, it's something that I'd have to check.
So do
'Cause,
you
I
know
was
if Lunafactions is a scalar or a multiplier? Is the question.
I have no idea. I mean, I could look it up, but it would take me like 4 or 5 minutes to find that spreadsheet
Yeah.
to do it. I have it pinned somewhere, so it wouldn't be hard to do. But whenever I was thinking that, so those little half barricades, when is the last time you remember that being something important to use? Because mine is definitely the Callus boss
Yeah,
fight.
Leviathan. That's the last time I
Whenever
remember it being important. Yeah, where you
either
could just
shooting the
duck behind it
skulls,
and just jump up and down. And this was well was added later in the game, right? With Forsaken. So we didn't have the real auto reloading like a well. I think you had the baby
we had
wells.
Rift,
We had
we had the
rifts,
rifts. Mhm.
but the ducking was faster. It was easier for more
Yep.
people. Um, and then it didn't require an exotic, so you didn't have to have an exotic to do it. But yeah, that's the last time that I was ever, and that's what I pictured immediately upon on hearing that is, are we getting back to a Rockets DPS meta?
Just whenever they
And
took away the
Wait,
auto loadings, whenever the last time I
yeah,
remember.
no, yeah, but maybe it's sniper without any flinch. Even if the boss is hitting you with stuff, you're still getting your whispers going.
man, I can't. I hope Whisper makes it back. I love that. I love that gun. I can't help it.
Yeah, it's such a
I
good
got it.
gun.
I got it. My very first boss kill on Crota. I got the Black Hammer, and I had it like super early, and it was great. I love that gun. I've loved every variation of it. I hate that it's now basically useless. But we did get it busted out this week, which we'll hit later for that.
Yeah. And then let's see. So they started after that. They started talking about regular just changes for the behemoth. So they didn't like how slowed down they made the behemoth. They didn't like some of the changes that they made to him to make it harder to shatter things and stuff like that. So during the cryoclasm, any slide can actually shatter stuff. So you can just be walking, and as soon as you can get a slide going, you can just go bang and just start sliding around and do a smash, make some crystals, and just slide into all of them without having to charge it up. The next thing they did was they made that slide notification ready, so that when you did have that slide, they made it pop up for 4.5 seconds instead of 1 second, because you could miss it if you're not paying attention. Um, and those were the two bigger changes that they made for that cryoclasm. And it's going to be good not having to charge up a slide just to shatter stuff or use the actual melee in order to shatter more stuff. Just being able to make some crystals and just slide into a bunch of stuff, melee a thing, make some more crystals. It's going to be a lot easier to shatter things, and it's going to be a little more viable, which is something I'm excited about for sure. And then want to keep going with the Titan? Got a lot to
Yeah,
talk about.
absolutely. Keep that going.
All right, so we moving on to Middle Tree Sun, my favorite crucible. That throne hammer is going to last from 6.5 to 10 seconds. So it's going to be on the ground for 10 seconds. It's going to let you get a couple of engagements out and be able to not worry as much about re-picking it up before it detonates. And then they also increased its damage against PvE powerful enemies by about 50%. And I think that scales based off of the enemy. But that's, I mean, if you got Roaring Flames times 3 going and you got some Worm Husk going, that hammer's going to hit for a lot. Next thing they talked about was top and bottom tree striker. So Fist of Havoc, what they did is they increased that slam radius by 14%. So it's a bigger bubble of damage on the slams. And then they reduce the damage fall off. So it does more damage the farther out you go compared to what it used to be. And then they reduce the cost of the slams from 21% to 18%. So you are able to do, I think, one more of them if you plan it right, which is good for. There's a little more damage here and there. Then they talked about Middle Tree Striker, the inertia override. They increased the duration of it from 4 to 6 seconds, and then sliding over ammo grants you 20% melee, so you can get that Superman smash down more often just by sliding over ammo.
So that's the one on Titan that stuck out the most to me as a huge buff, because I think that is the most fun Titan class anyways. And then with how fun Chorus of the Falling Star is right now and how it's used on everything, that's a huge buff to PvE and PvP, because the 6-second 20% damage buff is longer than kill clip. And this, say like your teammate killed somebody and they didn't go pick up the ammo, you slide over top of it, you have basically rampage times 2 for 6 seconds for free. I think you're going to see a lot of this going on PvP.
Yeah, it's going to be something I'm going to be paying attention to more as a middle tree during PvE kind of guy. And that, I mean, they increased the duration of it by 50%, which is nothing to laugh about. It's a good amount from 4 to 6. It's a significant amount of time. And then the last thing they did was to my good old bubble buddy, Ward of Dawn. They increased the damage it takes from bosses from 0.25 to 7 times damage, depending on your resilience. So it's going to scale down based on your resilience going up. So the higher tier your resilience is at, the lower damage multiplier it's going to take from bosses. So they specifically said from bosses. So this isn't going to be something that's going to be PvP oriented. It's only PvE. So that's going to be interesting to see what the damage multipliers are going to be at, depending on which tier you're at. Because typically I'm running 7 for GMs and stuff. So going to see if that's going to be like the 1 times is going to be 70 and then it goes down from there, or if it's going to be 2 times at 70 and I'm going to have to go up if I want to run Ward of Dawn. But it'll be something to check out later.
Yeah, this is pretty. This is huge, and basically what this stops is dropping a bubble on a boss and sorting it until it's in like negating the stomp mechanic, which the stomp mechanic in general might need to be taken out of some of the boxes that are actually don't have feet. So
Agreed. Or gambit bosses that are floating or yeah.
Yep.
So all in all, I think there's a pretty just good changes to Titans all around, right? Except for the bubble.
Yeah, I mean the bubble. It's something that they had to do for. I mean, they did the same thing to the swords. The reason they dropped swords damage is because they didn't want people just sitting on the boss swiping at it. So doing the same thing to bubble is just doing this the second thing that they wanted to do. They're just doing that.
Yeah, plus with the swords, you could swipe to negate the pushback mechanic too. So it's kind of a 2-in-1.
Any melee will let you do that, whether it's a regular melee, the swipe, a super melee. It'll just lunge you back. It'll just magnetize you back to the enemy that you're doing it to.
Yeah, even like the phalanxes when they shield bash you. If you just melee right when that bash hits, pro tip, you're not going to get pushed back. So if you didn't know that, now you know.
So Chad, do you think they left out anything with Titans that you was kind of hoping that they would buff in some way?
I mean, I'm glad that they made the throwing hammer last longer on the ground. It's something that I definitely wanted to happen, because there's times where I throw it in Crucible and I'm like trying to kill a dude and I see it in the distance go poof. And I'm like, man, that guy's almost dead. If it was just a second longer, I could have killed him and run over. And then in PvE too, where you just chuck it and then all of a sudden you get swarmed by stuff and you're watching it blow up. I wish I could get it back.
Yeah.
So just that time increase is great. I mean, it's not gonna hurt anybody besides the enemies more. It's like it's not increasing the recharge rate, so even if you lose it, it just comes back immediately. It's something where you can still miss it, and then you're out of luck. But it gives you just that extra couple seconds where you can run over there.
I love that subclass. That is probably my favorite subclass to play. Whenever you throw the hammer and it hits the enemy and bounces back to you, it's very satisfying. And I mean, obviously, it's a very, very, very slight lead over the middle tree arc subclass, the headbutt subclass. Those two are super fun to play. And I generally Titans are they went from my third favorite to my second favorite this past season. So I really like those two subclasses. Don't really care much for the rest of them, but those two I think are really fun.
Well, thanks for leaving out your favorite class, and we'll talk about it next. And that is the hunters. And the first thing we're touching on is the revenants. And revenants has been on top of the PvP. Often basically since Beyond Light. And this last season, they finally got brought down, and they brought them down slightly too much. They're giving them a slight touch up. And the first change is the silence and squall. And the squall movement speed is going to be increased by 20% now. So that's a tornado that goes around chasing you. And now whenever the tornado hits a boss, it's going to stay on the boss and do damage to it instead of moving away from it. So that's a pretty good PvE buff to this class that's definitely needed. And then Withering Blade, the Shuriken, is getting a 10% speed buff. So and also 10% the tracking. So hopefully that brings it up because those things move quite slowly. They've been the recent nerf has made them almost unusable for the most part. And then the next change is to Middle Tree Gunslinger, and that is Knife Trick is extended from 3 seconds to 4 seconds. To me, they should have done a lot more with this tree because I don't think this tree gets much play besides for Atheon with Shards Galanor, because you can get off like six or seven supers that way. And for the most part, this tree really struggles a lot. So I was hoping for a little bit more there, but maybe there's more coming in the future. The next change is to Top Tree Gunslinger, which is the six shooter. For a long time, the golden gun had unlimited range, and they brought it in to 20 meters, but they have that too small, so they're buffing it up to 25 meters. And then now we're getting changes to the Arc Strider class, which I think is probably the weakest class tree for the hunter for the most part, and it's getting a huge PvE buff to where the Arc Staff is now doing 33% more damage to combatants. And to me, this paired with Radiant Flux could be the meta for some DPS encounters. So I'm definitely going to get one of those leveled up and have that ready for season 15.
Yeah, my hunter, I have one of those always at Pinnacle Cap just in case. But it's you remember when it was glitched and the melee ability for Top Tree stacked onto the super?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm hoping it feels a little bit like that.
Mm-hmm.
And with Raiden, did you say they're increasing the duration of arc, right?
Yeah, I haven't touched that, but yeah, the super is getting extended for another 4 seconds.
Yeah, so with that and Raiden and damage increase, bro, that super's gonna last forever if you're just slamming on something.
That might be like a 25 or 30-second super.
It's gonna feel like a little bit longer than probably Chaos Reach Geomags.
Yeah,
you're just gonna be sitting there slamming it, and it's just gonna keep on going.
And then the next tree to the Arc Strider is to the top tree, and that is Deadly Reach would now last for 10 seconds instead of the 8. And then middle tree Arc Strider Lightning Weave will now trigger whenever you use Tempest Strike, or if you get damage with Tempest Strike. And then the timer of that can be extended with damage with any weapon. So Lightning Weave is whenever you hurt something with melee, that you get increased reload. And so basically, if you just do this before a DPS phase and you don't have somebody with lunafactions or something like that for some reason, you're having that super fast reload to get this done. So there's a lot of good changes to Arc Strider, but the thing they left out for me, they left out Blink. I was really hoping they was going to bring Blink back for the hunters, and they haven't done that yet.
Well, we probably got a new subclass coming, so
yeah, it's true.
Who knows?
Do you guys still expect a new subclass?
I'm 50-50 right now.
Yeah. I say
Oh,
probably as in a 50-50 still probably.
so 50-50 as in you think it's equally as likely that they rework the light subclasses as opposed to giving us a new subclass?
I don't think they have time to rework all of the light subclasses. I think they would take like one of each.
At a season at a time.
Yeah, like we might get all solar or something changed.
Yeah.
So what if we have like I was thinking about this driving today. I think I drove 142 miles at work today. So so with that, what if they do like Chad kind of alluded to in regards to do like solar one season, arc one season, void one season? I think that would give a lot more value to that season pass. But they probably can't tie that behind the season pass. But I wish they could because that would be nice.
Hmm. So yeah,
But
that's usually tied behind
you
the
can't have the
DLC.
free you can't have like the free players on one
Yeah.
subclass and the paid
Hmm.
players on another subclass. So, but if I really wish this game wasn't free to play. I feel like that was a bad mistake. But what can I say? Maybe that's a topic for the 4 months without content we'll have next season.
Oh
Yes.
gosh.
Yeah, we'll definitely have some weird episodes going on then to
Oh,
fill the
lore's
time.
gonna be wild.
Lots
So
of drafts.
yeah.
Oh no. Can
You'll
we do
get better,
something I'm
Chad.
good at though?
Yeah. We're gonna need it. So the last change to hunters here is to military night stalker, which I think a lot of people moved over to this season from the nerf to revenants, and basically these changes are going to be the spectral blades, and the super reduction is now changed to 47%, and it was at 52%, and then also the damage reduction while invisible is changing from 5% to 3%. So whenever that spectral blade was invisible and in a super, I was getting a 57% damage reduction. So now that's down to 50.
All right.
Has
I think is that all of your
Yeah,
subclasses?
yep, it's all
All right.
hunters.
All right. So we will hit to the warlocks. And so the first thing they touched base on in the TWAB was the shade binder. So to make this really fast, they feel that the shade binder is pretty good in PvP, but they feel like other people in supers need more of a chance. So so if I'm in my shade binder, which is my stasis subclass, and somebody's in a burning maul, a fist of havoc, sentinel shield, nova warp, arc staff, or spectral blades, that so basically a melee super, it'll take 2 freeze and shatters in order to kill somebody else in their super. I think that's perfectly fair. I didn't have anything to complain about with that. What do you guys think as you guys typically play the other class?
Yeah, this is pretty spot on with those with those subclasses. How you have to get on top of somebody to kill them with your super. You know, I always thought that Raving Super was a little too powerful, anyways. But if you had somebody with a shade binder as popped, it's made them nearly impossible. So it's an interesting line to walk that what Bungie's doing.
Yeah, they definitely they point what they want the subclass to do, and they're trying to make it specialize in doing that, which is great. It's something that they should be doing. I'm glad that they outlined that and then are sticking to it. And I think did they say the change in that where it does damage to supers, but like the Freezy Boy supers, it can still one shot Behemoth.
Yes, it can still one
Yes, it
shot.
says Glacial Quake still only requires 1 shatter to defeat.
But everything else is two because they're not frozen; they're light. So that's interesting. And I like that. I like that. I mean, if I'm freezing everybody else, I should be more susceptible to the freeze since I'm already frozen myself.
Kind of makes sense. So the next subclass they touch on is Top Tree Dawnblade, and I'm sure that everybody that wasn't a warlock was bated breath, waiting to see what they were going to do here. And prior to me reading this, I have to say I feel like it was actually much better than I anticipated. I anticipated this subclass getting nerfed into the ground and to be absolutely useless. So obviously the biggest issue that people have with this subclass is the 2 Icarus dashes and the movement ability that you have without any penalty. So they also touch base on how it's difficult to tell if a person has, if you are facing somebody that's top treed on, being able to tell if they still have their Icarus dash, if they're on cooldown. So essentially what they've done here is they have, uh, and also I'm sorry, I should have mentioned also the melee, the range melee that tracks as well. So the first thing they did with the Celestial Fire, which is that range melee, is they reduced the tracking cone angle. The basically you got to be a lot more accurate with it. It's not going to track as well. So to really TLDR it, that's kind of the best way to do it. With Icarus Dash, you now only get 1 air dodge every 4 seconds. However, while under the effects of Heat Rises, which is basically when you eat your grenade, you get 2 dodges every 5 seconds. Also, when in Heat Rises, which if you play the subclass, if you go to Heat Rises, you like stay in the air longer. You don't have that in-air penalty and all that. They did, as a Jared, what did you call it? A nerf to the
Yes.
subclass. They increased the duration from 10 seconds to 15 seconds, and whenever you're in the air and you get a kill, it increases the time that the Heat Rises is active. And you do, however, appear on enemy radar while using Heat Rises. So, what do you guys think? I think is very fair. They essentially nerfed the Icarus Dash, but while doing that, they buffed the Heat Rises. So, I think it's pretty fair. So, what do you guys say?
I think tying it to Heat Rises is good. It makes it harder to use, but they made it I think what was the cooldown initially for like what it is right now? Is it 2 every 4 seconds?
It's like 2 every 5. Like if you use both of them, you have
Okay,
like a
yeah, if you use both
5-second
of them.
cooldown.
Yeah. So tying it to that is good. It makes it so you have to do something, so you have to prep before. You can't just jump in the air and just go whoosh flying into the halfway across the map. You got to consume the grenade and then go and then you don't have a grenade either. So it's one less thing in your kit to hit the enemies with. And then it's going to be fun in PvE to be floating and just death from above. All the PvE just pew 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 pew, shooting all the red bars and just watching your timer just do that over and over
Right.
again, and you're just floating in the air like Angel of Death. That's gonna
Yeah,
be fun to do.
I should have mentioned that from the way it reads, if you kill yellow or orange bars, I think that extension's going to be more than for killing
Yeah,
red bars.
yeah,
So
of course.
even better.
Yeah, to me, movement at the cost of something is what Destiny needs more of. I would look forward to the day that Stompies get reined in a little bit for hunters too, because that's pretty. It's very free also. Um, I was the Titan Behemoth.
But it comes at the cost of an exotic. I can hear it now.
Yes, so like right now with this Warlock nerf, that you could run Starfire Protocol and have 2 grenades, right? But you're giving up transfer steps.
Yeah,
I like Warlocks and Hunters and Titans to have a choice of what 2 movements you would rather have. So if you're a hunter and you want your dodge back more often, you're running Frosties. That should come at a cost compared to running the Stoppies. One of your jump is just amazing.
All right. So all in all, I think it's pretty fair. This was the one that I was paying most attention to as a person that mains PvE over PvP. And this is the Middle Tree Dawnblade, or the Warlock, as most people know. So I'm just going to read this here because I can't sum it up any better than this. But like Word of Dawn, dropping a well on certain bosses is a no-brainer because it's so effective. The goal of the below changes is to reduce the breadth of encounters solved by Well of Radiance and to make Burly Wells a conscious choice by the Warlock. Additionally, we would like to make Well of Radiance more effective in the Crucible. You will have more survivability while in the well and won't be able to be frozen or slowed by stasis users, making this tree a solid choice when facing off against stasis. The well sword can be frozen and shattered, but it takes multiple freezes and shatters before being destroyed. So whenever you cast this well, you take this sword and you pull it off your back and you kind of jump up and throw it in the ground. So that's kind of really important to know as far as these next things I'm about to read here. So Well of Radiance takes increased damage from bosses from 0.25 times to 1.5 times, and that's at 0 resilience is the 1.5. So this isn't the players inside of the well, this is the sword, aka the health of the well. So if I am the one that casts the super Well of Radiance, what my resilience is correlates to essentially how much damage and aka how long this well is going to last. So if I am running a very low resilience as a lot of warlocks do in PvE, most of us focus on intellect, recovery, and discipline. So now we kind of have to start looking at this resilience because our well is not going to last quite as long. And while you're in the well in PvP, you get an increased damage resistance buff that goes from 20 to 40%. So, however, the well sword can be frozen and shattered by stasis in PvP. Also, the guiding flame was increased in duration from 7 seconds to 10 seconds and increased damage buff from 20% to 25%. So, as far as the well goes, PvE wise, what do you guys think? I think it seems pretty fair because I mean it is too strong. I mean, I'm not a denier of these things, but I think it'll make it a little better because right now you're trying to do hard PvE content. You have your well, you have your bubble behind the well, and that's how it's been basically since Forsaken. So I'm pretty happy with it. I can't complain.
I think that these changes specifically target the Reckoning Bridge, and these are changes
Absolutely.
that
Yes.
would have directly made it so they didn't have to make the Reckoning Bridge. Like, because yeah, if you started the bridge and then you got to the first big boss, one slam from that thing, if you're at 0 resilience, would immediately destroy the well and you would all die, and then you would lose the encounter. So it's something that was definitely needed to be done. I didn't know how they were going to do it, but it's interesting to see how they did. And again, it's something that we need to test to see what kind of health this has, like going into Pit of Heresy and dropping it right in front of the boss and just stepping back and seeing how many hits it takes for him to break it. And same thing with the bubble. It's something I want to test and just double check. But it's all good changes, personally.
To me, this also signifies there's going to be more PvE stasis going forward, and being in that well and not being able to get frozen or slowed is going to be huge.
Yeah, Boots of the Assembler is going to be a big thing for sure. Having the little rifts be able to do the heals.
I love that exotic. I love that exotic so much. That's one of my favorite Warlock exotics for sure. So, one thing that I was surprised on that they didn't talk about stasis turrets in this. I thought for sure those things would be nerfed like way down, either health or it takes longer to freeze or decrease the time, or
I mean,
those are all ways you can nerf it.
These are mostly PvP changes from what I see, like slight PvE changes here and there. And that turret is not the move in PvP.
For sure.
And
All right, so go ahead.
One
Jared,
more
I'm sorry.
thing, that melee ability of getting the 25% damage buff is quite huge, and
Absolutely.
you're giving that to your buddies too if they're close by. So this has gotta. You might be seeing a lot more of this in sixes and maybe even an Iron Banner stuff going on to those 4, 5, 6 stacks have one of these and they come around 2-tapping you with the 120s again. So yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, we all remember for Last Wish, whoever throws the well, they need to get the melee kill to give the buff. So it definitely all works together. One of the ones I was most excited about here was this Bottom Tree Dawnblade, which was a subclass I personally rarely ever touched. It was by far the most lackluster of the solar Warlock subclasses. So they have, first of all, with the Phoenix Dive. So this subclass is the one where you kind of float in the air, and then the Wings of Sacred Dawn exotic kind of goes with it, as well as the Dawn Chorus exotic helmet as well. So the Phoenix dive, which is essentially if you're up in the air, you're taking damage, you can like hold. I know on controller it was the B button, and I'll be honest with you, this is embarrassing. I don't even know what button it is on mouse and keyboard because I never used it since I switched over to mouse and keyboard. But essentially, it allows you, it reduces the delay before you drop down. And you can now, you don't have to drop straight down. You can kind of drop in a direction, which would be helpful because when you're up in the air, you do have the element of surprise, but you are literally a sitting duck. I guess you're a flying duck, literally. So figuratively, you're a sitting duck up in there. And now you'll be able to drop like behind a rock or something that would be there on the map. And the igniting touch, the ability. So what they did was they essentially reworked the whole subclass to where any ability kill will now give you it'll burn the target, and then whenever the target dies, it explodes. So it kind of sounds almost like a chain reaction or a dragonfly. So basically, if you kill something with an ability, it is going to explode into fire and hurt the stuff around it. So the way I'm reading it, which could be incorrect, is if I kill a red bar with an ability, it explodes and then it kills another enemy and then that enemy would explode. So it could be pretty cool, like especially with thralls, screebs, any of those kind of smaller enemies. I think you could really rain some pain down on them. So I'm interested to try that out because I literally have not used that subclass in over a year and a half or 2 years probably.
And another thing they added there was that its ability kills or burning targets will now cause them to explode. So is that pairing with Sunshot? Is that pairing with Jotun? Is that pairing with chain reaction on a solar rocket launcher? So you got, so like Phoenix Cradle paired with Titan with Jotuns. So it'd be really interesting if they get some play with that.
Yeah, it's almost like I mean it's not a Warmind cell build, but it almost kind of makes you think like if you do this and you have like the solar like the Wrath of Rasputin or something like that,
Yeah.
I wonder what kind of what kind of hell you could
the
give
burning
everybody
cells
with
mod.
that. Exactly. So next we have the Middle Tree Stormcaller, which is Chaos Reach. I was surprised based upon what is in this TWAB. They mainly focus more on the PvP part of Chaos Reach. I kind of wonder what they're going to do for PvE Chaos Reach. It says these changes should lead to less instances of Chaos Reach dealing damage to enemies on the other side of a wall. So previously, if you're kind of tucked behind a wall, I could still shoot my Chaos Reach like around the corner, and it had a pretty large blast radius as to what it would kill. Admittedly, it was a little busted, especially with Geomag stabilizers, which allows you to sprint from like 86 to 100% to finish off the super, as well as increases but more of a PvE thing. It increases the duration of the super as long as you're continuously dealing damage. So a lot of times in PvP, what you would do is you ran a high intellect and these you could get your super before anybody else, and then you could either be really aggressive with the super because it lasted a while, or you could use it as a shutdown super. So if Chad brings his Titan in, trying to stasis everybody, I could use it and kill him and then immediately shut the super off, retain 30 to 40% of the super, which is really like 60% of the super if you count the sprinting to recharge it. So it was a little unfair, I suppose, but we don't get a lot as Warlock, so we don't complain. But with the Chaos Reach, they increased the beam environment collision size to better match the collision size with damage size. We reduced beam damage radius in PvP by 20% and reduced beam endpoint sphere radius in PvP by 33%. I'm going to assume you guys are happy about this, or any complaints that you can think of?
I want to say great job, Bungie, of just making this change in PvP.
Yeah, it's definitely, like I said, it's changes that are catered towards more PvP related stuff with some like kind of quality of life changes for PvE stuff related stuff, and it's good. I mean, they didn't hit Top Tree Dawn as hard as I was expecting, but they still did it in a way that I'm happy about. And it's going to be changes we're going to have to see how they actually work out in the real world. I'm assuming they did their testing on their end, but it's going to be something that we're going to have to see and see how it plays out, as well as with all the other stuff. But again, definitely on the 24th, watch the release trailer for Witch Queen, all that fun stuff. Read the patch notes that they're going to put out for what's happening at the beginning of the season, because there's going to be a lot of stuff. They even said there's stuff in there that was too small for them to talk about here. So it's going to be lengthy, and there's going to be small things that we don't know about, like maybe they're decreasing a duration of something by half a second or increasing another duration by a half a second, and it's something that we're like, oh shoot, they could do. Really, we don't know. But as far as what I see here for everybody down the board, I'm happy with it for sure.
A pro tip, you don't have to read the patch notes. Just listen to our podcast or watch our YouTube video, and we will read you the patch notes and give you what you need to know out of it.
Pro tip, do both.
Listen, if somebody's searching out our podcast, they're reading those patch notes anyway. Let's be honest with each other. So I have two more subclasses here. Bottom tree Stormcaller. So I can't tell you the last time I used the bottom tree Stormcaller. Top tree I like for Gambit specifically. That's about it. Bottom tree, this is the one where you get the Arc Soul. So essentially they increased the duration from 12 seconds to 13 seconds, which made me chuckle when I read. I was like, really? That's so important that we get 1 extra second. And then I saw that they increased the fire rate by 10%. So I started thinking, by increasing it 1 second and with that fire rate, you're getting quite a bit more with that Arc Soul than you were previously. The Electrostatic Surge now increases sprint speed when allies are near, and Landfall now fires 5 Arc Ground projectiles on cast. So I think it's headed in the right direction. I'll mess around with it maybe like week 6 of next season. It's not something I'm rushing out to do. Eventually I'll get around to it. But I was never much of a bottom tree Stormcaller anyway. I'm assuming you guys weren't either, since you guys don't play the subclass too often except for in-game content, which you're never going to use this for. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Yeah, just for testing purposes.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Last but not least, this is outside. This is very interesting. The Middle Tree Voidwalker, which is the Nova Warp, to kind of make it easier. So Nova Warp was in my opinion, was primarily a PvP subclass. There wasn't a whole lot of use for it with PvE. It felt sluggish. It didn't do a whole lot of damage. It felt like. So I remember having like some yellow and orange bars and having to do like 3 of that really slow animation where you pull it in and do that. So wasn't something I ever used except in PvP. And then that was early on, and then they kind of nerfed it, if I recall correctly, at one point. So then it really wasn't any good. So they have now increased the damage versus PvE combatants by 73%. That might be, I mean, that is wild. That is a big percent number. So, and it no longer slows the movement speed while charging or while it's charged, and it detonates on cast. So it doesn't have that like pull it in and bring it out effect. And then the handheld supernova, which is, the the grenade that you kind of charge and throw out there. They increase the damage versus PvE combatants by 100% and increase the hold time from 2.5 to 3.2 seconds. So now you can kind of have it cocked there for a while, as opposed, kind of give you just a little bit longer there. So that was, seeing those increase damage percentages was nutty. I did not expect that whatsoever, but I'll probably mess around with it. I bet it would be really, really, really nice in the Blind Well or the Altars of Sorrow, places like that. You could do a lot of damage in there with that super, I expect.
You know what's going to be funny is whenever we get a dungeon release next season, and like we're all in there with our Radiant Flux Arc Striders and our our Nova Warlocks in there doing massive DPS and one page and stuff
Right.
with like stuff we haven't used in 2.5 years.
Yep, and none of us know how to like be really efficient with those subclasses, so we're gonna have like a little bit of a learning curve again. So I don't know. It'll be nice to not be tied down to. I mean, as a warlock in PvP, you played Top Tree Dawn or maybe Stasis. In PvE, you played Well or Stasis, maybe Devour. If you're, but I'm talking about like harder content. So it seems like they're trying to open it up to where you can have more subclasses for more things, which is ideal because doing that allows people to connect better to their characters and their subclasses and all that. So I think all in all, props to Bungie for this. I'm really excited to see what they do. Was it next week they were talking about armor and mods, I believe?
Yes.
So with that, I wonder if they'll touch base on like particular exotics, such as what they're going to do to geomag stabilizers and those type of things. Do you think we'll see any of that next week?
Absolutely. I think our Ursa Furiosa is going to get touched too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's gonna be some stuff, and I'm not excited about what's gonna happen to my Warmind cells because they're gonna
yeah,
talk about something. I'm not happy about it.
yeah. But hey, let's this is a really dumb thing to say, but let's try. So I expected way worse than what we got today. I was very pleasantly surprised with everything I read today. So maybe they're going to come out and they're going to be like, hey, this armor affinity stuff for your mods, this doesn't make a lot of sense. Previously, we had constraints due to not being able to display all the mods on one screen, but now on the new systems with the increased RAM. And, we're also on a new engine because look at our shaders, look how many shaders we can display. So maybe, best case scenario, they get rid of armor affinity for mods. So that's my dream. I don't expect that to happen, but maybe they do something like that next week.
Because I'll keep my hopes up high, my head down low.
I mean, the oh god, the affinity thing annoys the hell out of me. It's um all I don't even have a fix for it in my head. But going back to what you said initially, I've already said my 2 cents on the changes that have happened. I'm happy about them. Happy to see what happens, and am definitely going to do lots of random testing and hope that I have someone that wants to be in a private PvP match with me to just do nonsense with for a bit.
Chad, I have the fix for you for the armor affinity. So right now, say I have like a high discipline build that I want to have for the stasis turret. So I need to have essentially like a 3 chess pieces that are high in discipline and yada yada yada. Why don't you just allow me so to max out, why don't you just let me use a golf ball, an ascendant shard, and I can unlock, say I have a solar chess piece, allow me to use a golf ball, I put that in, and then I can choose between arc and void, and then I put another golf ball in and I can choose the one that I didn't choose. So now by putting 3 golf balls into this one chess piece, I have it maxed out at level 10, and then I can unlock the other 2 affinity classes to switch between and just do it that way. And then once I've unlocked it once, I don't have to worry about using a golf ball every single time to switch the affinity.
So you're saying give it a rainbow, unlock it as a toggleable thing instead of a
Yeah.
upgrading thing.
Yeah, if I put 9 golf balls into an exotic, I should be able to change the affinity of it. If I put 3 golf balls into a legendary chess piece, I should be able to change the affinity of it without having to worry about it.
You're decreasing the RNG grind. So I don't think that's going to happen.
But he's
I mean,
also
you're probably
increasing the
right.
GM grind by a lot for a lot of people.
Yeah,
There are
which is
lots of
gonna. Mhm.
like I would do that. I would do that so that I had like only 2 armor sets per character that I can rainbow up. But that would mean using three three, so at least a minimum of 15, 30 per 2 of those sets, and then another 9 per exotic. Dude, we'd be sitting in that GM playlist doing that for days.
And how much grinding do you have to do to get to that GM playlist? You play all the season content, you're getting to GM level at least 125 plus getting to full pinnacle cap, and you're
Yeah.
doing it that way,
And
man.
then
I think
and then
you're
it
I
makes
think you're
it
changing the grind from one
yeah.
thing to another, but I
Mhm.
think it does it. And I
And then it
think that's
makes
the fix.
a high stat armor piece even more significant and more impactful. So once you get that piece of armor that's 67 or 70, that piece can be your forever piece if it's where you need it to be versus just a piece. I understand Jared's point of view also as a business perspective.
Oh, for
It
sure,
is,
for
yeah.
sure.
But again, I don't have a personal idea that I have for this. So I'm just going to have fun with whatever Ryan said because it's probably not ever going to come true.
Right. Yeah, I mean this isn't likely to happen. This is the world I someday hope to live in. But, I think that would be the best fix for it. And it increases the value of those golf balls. Maybe you get 2 or 3 per, we already get what, 3 per season pass or something like that. So, I don't know. To me that makes the most sense. But what do I know?
Yeah, there's some good ideas there. Hopefully Bungie does some stuff in our favor, but I think they're going to be changing the price of some of the mods too next week. So that's something. Hopefully they changed it into more our favor. Well, here one of the last things they do in the TWAB is talk about the powering up the stasis experience. So I don't know what other people did, but the first week of Beyond Light, me, Chad, and Fox, I don't know how many hours we put in together running around Europa doing all this
Too many.
Born in Darkness quests, shooting stuff with the
Oh,
Salvation's
Lord.
Grip grenade launcher, and all that mind numbing stuff. That I think I've blocked out half of it. And so what they're doing, they're making the map of getting all that stuff more straightforward, and the Exo Stranger is going to have all that stuff. So if you're still lagging behind on any of that stuff, or just picked up Beyond Light recently, and you're like, what quest do I need to do next to get what aspect, to get what fragments? It's going to be more straightforward, and you can be able to go to her, and the stranger will help you out. She'll have time to explain what she needs to explain for you.
Something like that.
Yeah. The next thing to do is they have another fundraiser coming up, and it's called the Gauntlet, and it is a charity going towards young women empowered, which is a Seattle nonprofit. And what they do is they cultivate the power of diverse young women to be creative leaders, courageous change makers through transformative programs within a collaborative
There we
community
go.
of belonging. And so if you donate $25, you get a pretty cool emblem, and going to a good cause that is local to Bungie and stuff they have been doing for 7 years now. So
Listen, Bungie's always there. This one thing I'm proud of is the company that I love and support the most seems to love everybody and support others. So it feels good. It feels good. At least I'm not rooting for people that that
take
previously
people take people to the
publish.
Cosby room.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh god.
or put them in Suey season. So you guys can figure that one out on your own.
All right. So like all their other fundraisers, they like to give out a reward just to participate, and anyone who donates $25 on a single donation to their page receives the Entre Nous emblem, which they got here, and it's that darker blue, and it's definitely a cool pattern, and it's simple. It's very clean, and I like it a lot. I might be hitting that page
It's
once everything's happening, but
it's not as good as that blue with the hearts for the St.
yeah,
Jude one or whatever they do. That's by far the best one.
yeah.
Let's not get it twisted.
No, I'm not saying it's that amazing, but it's very clean.
It is.
So probably the last thing I really want to note on here from the TWAB is about the cosplay name changes, and this is mainly for players on Steam. So your Bungie name is going to come from your Steam profile name, not your Steam account name.
So your profile name is the name that's displayed in game, correct? Okay, Pretty sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I haven't looked it up yet, but I just want to make sure everybody knows which one it's coming from, and then go look it up which one that actually is.
All right. So an hour and 10 minutes later, we have made it through the intro. We have made it through the tweets, and we have made it through the TWAB. So we also this week, there are some of us here in this podcast who are now fate breakers. There is some of us in this podcast who are now not fate breakers. They're just one thing away.
That's not a now. That's how it's been before.
So in order to acquire the Fatebreaker title, we had to get in that master difficulty mode and of the Vault of Glass, and we had our last challenge, which was the out of its way, aka don't let the Templar teleport. So initially, I think Jared and I were a little nervous of this because our very first attempt at master difficulty was sketchy, I think would probably be a pretty decent word for it. So we saw this cool YouTube video where a bunch of the headbutt titans they stack some orbs down at the bottom of the stairs and then start the encounter and just use a bunch of supers. We tried that like twice and we're like, man, this is kind of whack. So we just decided to try it the old fashioned way, the same way you do it in regular mode. Kind of do it from not from the top right, but from the bottom left, I guess would probably be the best way to describe it. And we used anarchies, double slugs, well, and then we used the bubble not only for DPS but also to kind of protect behind us there. And I think we took us like 4 tries after that, but that was really the only try that was kind of clean without somebody dying or something. And it really wasn't difficult at all. So do you guys have anything to add on that? That, by the way, this is how you get the Timelost Fatebringer. So so that is a very nice reward. And then once completing all of the challenges, you unlock the shotgun, the Timelost version of the shotgun, the found verdict.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in order to get the found verdict, you have to claim the triumph, by the way.
Yeah. You have to do all 5 challenges to get the shotgun. So the main thing here is it's just straight DPS. Just do you have the DPS to get through the encounter or not? And that includes light level. So if you haven't done your seasonal challenges to get up to around, if you can get to that 1341 threshold, you're really going to make this really easy on you. And I know that's something to ask that is not what everybody wants to do. And I understand that, like, to be able to, but if you're the one person that's not 1341, maybe you need to be the Warlock person going around getting the blocks.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing Relic like we usually do, but I did some anarchy here and there, but I was mostly trying to keep myself safe, so I was hiding behind a barricade. I popped a panic bubble a couple times, and it definitely was also a lot of luck, making sure I'm not trying to run halfway across the map just to get to the next teleport spot. And then I think we had one person running a sniper just in case I got hit with the detain, so that I could get popped out of it. But it's as long as you were already doing this kind of strat beforehand, it's a very clean run. As long as everybody pays attention, does what they need to do, and a couple people have some kind of overload for those champions that come up, you will be fine. It's just going to take some tries.
Yeah. So the thing that really put us over the top was the overload art grenades that comes from the seasonal artifact. Once we swapped over to like 1 or 2 people using those as opposed to breach and clear, because you don't need everybody on breach and clear, because if I have it on and I have anarchy on the boss, it's everybody else gets that buff as well. So I think we had, and everybody was on, the people that were running Titans were already obviously on the Arc subclass with the Flawless of the Kirin Star. And so they had those art grenades already out, and that was really what put us over the top and made it pretty easy once we had the strategy. It really wasn't that bad.
Yep, and everybody finally gets your Timelost Fatebringer that automatically comes with the explosive payload and Firefly, the D1
Hallelujah.
version of the weapon. And thank you, Bungie. Can't thank you enough for making this the curated version, so everybody automatically gets it.
I have to say, I think that the way they implemented these timeless weapons and it being tied to the harder difficulty challenge mode, I think it's perfect. I think they've really nailed. It feels good. You get those done. They're challenging, but they're not like I'll never beat this. I never felt that one time while we were doing these, and I think they've kind of straddled that line, and I think they're in a really good spot with this stuff.
Yeah, I really hope to see this version of the curated adept weapons going forward in raids and dungeons. So we're going to get you into the roles to look for. That is besides the explosive payload and Firefly. So the other PvE role I would look for would be a full bore, Acarize, rewind rounds, and frenzy. Of course, if you get those paired on top of the curated role, you'll never need another PvE hand cannon again. So
Most stuff.
So if you be able to get that stacked on there, you'd be sitting pretty for a very long time. And
I got a really poor roll on mine. Did you guys get a decent roll on the one that you got from the chest?
Nah, mine was pretty bad.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
Thresh.
I've been saving those. I've been saving those spoils for whenever we
Yeah.
do decide to go kill Atheon. I've got like 6 or 7 of these ready to pop. So
I'm really looking for that Pray This Revenge is the one I'll be looking for the most out of that at the end. But PvP role for Fatebringer, small bore, a little bit of range and stability, Acarize, and then explosive payload and kill clip. And if it's not the created version, if it is a created version, instead of that payload, you go with tunnel vision. You could go with the killing wind. There's a few different things you can go there in that third column to get you going in PvP. Now, Chad, what are we doing this week in lore?
Ooh, this week is going to be. I think it's going to be mostly a theory crafting. Gonna the TWAB's very big. I mean, we're already at 117 for time. So I'm just gonna bring it back a little bit to the characters that we have so far for the season, and then talk about what I think, without any spoilers being involved, what I think is gonna happen next Tuesday. And so we're gonna first start off with Miss Rex Kell. We already know about the splicers. We know that he has led us through all these expunges, led us through the corrupted expunge, helped make Korea vulnerable, and then took the last city out of the darkness. And we now, like, if you go to the Batsa district where they are, you can see the Kel floating off above the city, or the Kel, the ship. You can see that big ship floating above the city. So there's something there that the Fallen have. And then we have Ido, who we've never met, obviously, who has taken lots of notes about the last city, has watched some residents doing some naughty things, and might talk about that. But we also have Saint 14, who throughout this time has built up a very strong connection with the Elixni, and with Mistrax Kell in particular, has formed a kind of kinship and bond, which can be easily found out by the interactions, like the interactions that Saint has throughout the corrupted expunges that you do. They happened earlier in the season, but you can tell that he's not as hesitant towards Mistrax as he was, and that's really cool to see. And I'm definitely excited to see what's going to happen with that. Obviously, we have everyone's favorite Lakshmi, always trying to lead a revolution and trying to unseat all of our leaders that I like, and is hiding in the shadows. Well, not really, actually. She's at the forefront of the shadowy type of people, and we know that she is doing whatever she can to cause chaos in the city and get rid of the Fallen. That is her main point, is to get the Fallen out of the city and away from humanity, by any means necessary. And she's made that abundantly clear. So whatever happens next week is definitely going to be tied to her in some way. Um, all the other characters are mostly side characters, including us. What we do know is that there is another override that's supposed to pop up. We know from earlier in the season that there's some stuff on the Tangled Shore that we haven't gotten to yet that they deactivated because they were accidentally active. And I mean, I think there's the only place that would make sense to add an override is very spoilery, so I don't really want to say much about that. But I think Lakshmi is going to be very much behind it. Lots of bad things are going to happen, and there's going to be human and Elixni casualties. And not even from fighting. I think it's going to be just from whatever happens is going to cause a lot of casualties on both sides, and we're going to have to come together as a united group of peoples to just get past this. So it's definitely something that if you did look at the spoilers that have happened, because they accidentally released the last lore book, which could have been an accident, could have been a very, very, very Savathun accident. You know what the outcome of what happens next week is already. If you looked at some of the stuff that's on the Bungie website, you know where the last override is going to be. Pretty much 99%. There's no way that the picture that's there is misleading. It looks like we know where it's going to be. So it's definitely going to be. I hope it's very story heavy, the override. I hope there's lots of conversations going on throughout the entirety of it. Because you know how we have conversations happening during overrides. But I hope that it's almost constantly just talking, depending on the speed you're doing it. But I hope that there's just talking going on with just Lakshmi and Misrax, Akora, Saint, and Osiris. I hope they're all just arguing and talking about what's going on and what they're trying to do. I'm hoping that there's a lot of content there, because this is like they waited till the last, what is it, second to last week of the season, right, to let this out, and that's really late for something major to happen. And the only other time they did that was when they destroyed the season of arrivals, the end of season of arrivals. They did something, and then it was destroying the Almighty, right? Mm-hmm. Those are the only two times I can remember where they did something major story wise at the end of the season. So I mean, I'm definitely, that's what I'm hopeful for.
Yeah. It's going to be nice to get some more storylines. So at the end of this season, when we get the played out, whatever, we won't get the meeting of the minds next season. Like we'll have like Misrax, Kydal, Saint, Zavala, all in the helm together, talking back and forth about what to do about Savathun. Yeah.
That would be so sweet.
So I think the better question as opposed to that is why do we have the helm?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, they created this spot, and you can't even see it from the outside from anywhere. You can only kind of infer what it is. But like the helm itself looks very cockpit-y. It doesn't look like an office. I mean, it's hanging from, like, it's not in the top of a building. It's hanging from the inside of a hangar. So it's clearly a hangar. There's lots of space.
Yep, and they had to go through the trouble to obviously create the helm. So if they're going through the trouble to create the helm, then it has to have a play in the story. I don't expect that to come this season. I expect that to be probably part of next season. But I mean, there has to be something to do with the helm. So if we assume it's a hangar, we think that we're flying. So maybe if we have that, maybe the tower, something happens with the tower. What do you guys think?
I think it's built underneath the old tower. And it's just, we'll eventually, like, we'll get the area to the right next season. And then in Witch Queen, like when you spawn into the helm, if you turn around and go backwards, like above Crow, that door open up, you go back, you go out, and you go out to a new courtyard.
That's like the
yeah.
reveal or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
not
that's
a
a
bad
good point.
thought.
I forgot about that door. But that would make sense. I mean, he would have to move. He wouldn't be by the door there the whole time. But it's already a social space where you can go, and it's cool because it's kind of like a clan space where you can only go with people that you want to bring there.
Right.
But it's definitely like Jared said, we're more than likely getting the space to the right next, which is the doors are symmetrical. So there's the right. There's the doors that lead down in the front there, also next to those. So those could be opened up at any time. And then there's the door in the back. And I'm assuming that the one we spawn in front of is the elevator that gets down into it, from above. However, so it's definitely, like I said, it's cockpit like, it's ship like. We're in a hangar. It's completely, there's nothing until you go way down. So I'm excited to see what they show for next season. What's going to be in the right room. And then I never thought of like a whole huge space for a courtyard in the back. So thanks, Jared, for that.
Yeah, thanks, man. That's a good thought for sure. Is that everything with the lore, Chad?
That is, yeah. I mean,
Mr. Chronicler.
Yeah, there's like I said, I didn't want to talk about a lot because of what's going to happen next week. There's going to be a lot of stuff to unpack next week. So, and with the TWAB as big as it was this time, it needed to be a little shorter. So we'll see what happens next week, and with the TWAB too. But I think it's mailbag time, isn't it?
I think it is. We will probably try to keep it a little quick. We're at an hour 26. We always try to stay between around an hour 30. So around 90 minutes is usually our target. First question, which subclass are you most looking forward to use? Me personally, the one I'm most looking forward to use is a tie between the Nova Warp, but I think I'm going to give a slight lean to that bottom tree Dawnblade to kind of see what the solar explosions are going to look like.
I'm gonna go with Arcstrider and playing around with those trees, and then the new PVE damage that they put out might be something fun to do. Especially with Middle Tree Arcstrider, you have the ability to get some reses off and some in-game PVE by taking damage and resing your teammates.
Yeah, I mean, the sad thing for me is it's going to be the same two I'm already doing. The middle tree hammers for solar, so I can throw my hammer and leave it on the ground for a little longer, and then the middle tree striker, so that I can get that inertia override going, get more melees here and there. It's just going to be fun. They're fun changes, and it's not anything different for me.
Right. All right. Question 2. What changes do you expect to see with the armor and mods TWAB next week? We kind of touched on this just a little bit. Jared, I know you mentioned the cost of the armor. The cost of the mods probably get worked around a little bit. I think that's very good. My hope is for the affinity, like for the subclass, like the armor affinity. What am I trying to say?
Arc Solar
Like
Void.
solar arc. Yeah, try to get that maybe work to where one piece can be converted to another, like a one-time a steep price. Let's make it steep. Hell, make it two golf balls. I don't care. I'd still pay it. I mean, I'm sitting on 40 of them right now anyway to kind of see what the plans are. So yeah, let's do it. That's what I'm hoping to see personally.
Yeah, I mean, they already showed that they could do it with the weapon mods, because the weapon mods used to be affinity based, and then they just removed that completely because it was nonsense. I am also hoping for them to do something about that. I mean, getting rid of it completely would be fine with me. As far as for like the Charge with Light and other mods like that. I know that they're going to make changes to Warmind cells and Charge with Light and the well mods, and I'm unhappy about one of those three changes. But
Well mods need a buff.
They do. That's
Yeah,
one I'm happy about. They need a buff.
Yeah, they need something, because I'm sure as hell not using them. So
yeah, I've like looked at them and picked at them here and there, but I haven't made a full fit out of it. So Yeah.
Whenever I'll be honest with you, whenever I'm running a strike or something with like that's matchmaking and I see those down, I think I wonder how new this guy is to the game, right? Because anybody that has played for a while is not going to be using those because they are not worth it.
You could be playing with the dev and the people that created them, and they want to use them.
They should have a lot better weapons, and if they're the ones that made the game, they should know not to use those terrible
Oh,
mods.
come on, man.
Oh, so
Anyway,
next,
Jared, your thoughts?
um, yeah. So I think they mentioned it before in one of the TWABs, but the cost of some of the sniper mods are too high. Like sniper reloads 5,
5.
sniper unflinching is 4,
man, that's
sniper
wild.
targeting is 5. I don't think there needs to be any of them that are that expensive. I would take it down to a 4, at least to a 3. I would like to see our armor mods that are like based on just the weapon be a max at 3.
Yeah, I think that would be a pretty good idea as well. Next question: which challenge do you believe is the most difficult for the master vault of glass? So my first thought would be the gatekeeper challenge. I don't know if it was because it was the first time a lot of our like clan slash raid team had been in the master vault of glass, and a lot of them were a little underleveled because they didn't know that like how high you would have to be for the master vault of glass because we had never had an incident to where you had to be that high in the season pass and everything, so everybody was a little unprepared. So I don't know if all that combined with that made it seem the most difficult, but that was definitely the most difficult for us. I think it took us about 3 hours just to do that challenge, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it's for me based off of just how they went. I mean, partially, of course, the ones later and later on, the guys are leveling up, so they're not going to
Right.
be. There's going to close the gap there. But the gatekeeper challenge is the hardest for one major reason, and that's because you're all spread out. For oracles, you're in teams of 2 at least, and 2 of them can cover. For the complexes, same thing. You're in teams of 2, you can cover. For the Templar, you're in team of 5 and one guy running around like a headless chicken. Gatekeepers split up. Atheon, you're in 2 groups of 3. So just the fact that you're split up, 1 person per plate, and then 1 person per portal, and then 2 guys kind of juggling back and forth. You didn't have 1 person that could really help out another person for very long. And that was the hardest part. Like, even if we had to redo it now, it's going to be really tough compared to the other ones, I think.
Yeah, I'm out there with you. Gatekeeper is probably the hardest, and if I'm gonna go Gatekeeper, I would say Confluxes because leaving Wyverns alive and how deadly they are, they one shot you even with concussive and void dampener on. So I think that one's right there with you with the potency of the enemies, and a lot of those red bars and stuff was they hit you hard and they're hiding behind that Wyvern. You can't really
Yep.
get to him sometimes. So
And Gatekeeper, you got to keep a Wyvern alive too until you're ready, and it's not good.
So maybe the problem was wyverns. Maybe that's the issue.
Yeah, it might be.
But one thing we should mention, we have the benefit of we've had the same team of 6 for like the last 2 years that we've all played consistently together. So if we could get one person to switch off a hunter, that would be probably make things a lot easier. But love you, Moon. But I think that so we do have that advantage. We understand if you're trying to LFG these, I'm sure all of them are difficult. So we're not trying to make light of any of these, but we're just coming at it from the perspective of people that have a quote unquote raid team. And we usually have 2 or 3 alternates that we can kind of call in at any time to help if we need. So next question. This was the one that was the most interesting to me. If you could take one thing out of the Destiny content vault, but you had to put 2 things in its place, what would they all be? Chad, we'll open with you.
God, that's the worst. That's such a tough question. I mean, Ryan's not going to like my answer.
You better not say it.
We have not
Don't say
conferred.
the G word.
So
Don't say
even
the
if
G word.
I'm saying it. If you don't,
yeah, even if Jared and I agree or are close, it's we have not talked about it. I
Yeah,
hate to
they
say that I
just
want Menagerie
they
back,
messaged each other.
but Menagerie should come back for the main reason that it's the best way to target grind specific things. That the chalice let you pick masterwork, let you pick perks, and it did a better job than the season of the hunt did with with weapon grinding. You could
I'd hope so.
pick it. Well, the season of the hunt came way later, and it did a worse job on
That
target
was
grinding.
the season of the hunt was the second worst season of all time.
Well, here's what I'm saying. They tried to make something similar, but it wasn't as close. It wasn't even. It was the same kind of thing, but not even nearly as good. And all they would have to do is refresh the weapons on there. We don't know where the Leviathan is, but we still got Nessus. And then I would put. Let's see. I want to say Rumble and Gambit into the vault because I don't have any other good option. I don't. What else would I put in there? The other stuff's too
how
new.
can you put Rumble in a content vault? It's just a
I know
playlist.
exactly. You'd have to put something major. You can't put the Crucible in there. You can't put PVE
Mm-hmm.
in there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I guess
You have to,
Nessus.
you have to, yeah, you have to put a plan. Damn it,
Nessus.
Chad. I mean, me and you go to the exact same things. I'm putting Gambit and Nessus into the content vault,
Dang it!
but I'm not bringing back Menagerie. I'm actually going to bring back Io. I like Io. I like the old
Okay, yeah,
Ashamir. I like the strikes.
You just like Asher. Let's be
I
so
like,
honest.
much. He loves
Gambit
Asher.
again.
and I like the strikes that was on it. I like those as
Yeah.
GMs. There's quite
No, yeah, they
challenging.
were
So
good. Yeah, Pyramidian and
yeah.
Festering Core were both
Mm-hmm. Yep.
money.
All right, so there's one correct answer to this, and we bring back. I'm going to cheat, and we're going to bring back the Leviathan suite of raids because they were all under one. They were all under one node in the director. So I'm going to cheat for that,
Yeah,
and we are going to give up. Since I'm cheating there, I'm just going to say we're just going to give up PvP. We're becoming a straight PvE game. We're giving up the Crucible. We're a full PvE game now, and we're bringing back the Leviathan.
what about the
So
PvEVP?
no, we're keeping that, of course. We're keeping that. That's how we got to get That's how we have to raise the population for the Gambit playlist. We have to
Get
make
rid of
that the
Crucible
only way you
completely.
can get PvP. Yeah.
You know,
All right.
one thing I would do about Gambit, a playlist in Gambit, is like on the Reckoning when you're on the bridge, there'd be two bridges, and the team on each bridge is racing to the end.
Oh, that'd be sweet. But the
Make
Gambit,
that
all they
make
need,
that
they just need a Gambit freelance. Just give me a Gambit freelance, and I'll be a much happier camper.
we got plenty of time next season to get into playlist
Yeah.
fixes and things.
Okay.
All right, guys. Last question. Wrap this up here. If Bungie signed a deal with a company and were to make a movie in the Destiny universe, and your guardian is the primary character, which actor or actress would you want to play as quote unquote you? I want to go third. I have two choices.
Dang
I
it.
think one
I
of
wanted to
you
go third.
I think one of you might take one of mine, so I have a backup. So I don't want to steal from you guys.
Do you have one, Chad?
I have like a bunch of options, but I haven't narrowed it down yet. I've been like thinking about it off and on for the whole pod, and I'm like, I just can't figure it out.
All right, I'm just give me Hugh Jackman, and I'll just take that.
Wow, that's mean. Um, gosh, I mean, my Titan is an EXO, so it could really be anybody. Shoot. Ooh. Trejo.
Danny Trejo.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. That's a good one. So my choice, and it was between two. The greatest actor of all time, Leonardo DiCaprio, is not my choice. I'm picking my second choice, and I like to think of my guardian as this actor, particular in the movie Training Day, and that is Denzel Washington.
I knew
Because
someone was gonna pick Denzel,
because
man.
King Kong ain't got shit on me. And that's how we're going to end the mailbag today. So make sure you guys follow us on Twitter at Destiny CC Pod. Join the Discord. Follow, like, subscribe, click the bell on YouTube. Subscribe, unsubscribe, and resubscribe to the podcast on Spotify and iTunes. And I'm going to let these fools here sign off.
This is Jared. Just give Hunters a blink again.
This is Chad. Nerf everybody else's Warmind cells, but make mine special.
Love you guys.